Let's not keep doing the same things we were doing when we had different tools. Let's do something different.
I'm Lori Maxon. I am here with the founder and president, and honestly, the only person in the world I've ever found that eats as many tacos as I do, Mark Van Holstein. Hi, Mark. How are you?
Good. How are you doing today, Lori?
I am doing well. So today we want to talk a little bit about a topic that's been trending lately called digital transformation. So, Mark, this is something that we've talked a lot about in the past. We haven't talked about it under the term of digital transformation specifically, but being in the business of creating custom software, we're obviously really familiar with the benefits and types of things that companies can do to incorporate technology into their business. So one of the things that with this whole COVID-19, obviously there's a ton more awareness and discussion happening out there. What do you think? Do you think digital transformation is more important than ever, given the current state of the world?
Yeah, I think it really is, Lori. I think that, it's interesting to see what's going on today. We've had, a lot of businesses shut down or forced to work in a remote fashion. And I think, that has pushed a lot of organizations to into sort of this realm where they need to think about how can they use technology and how can they change both how they work with their team, how they work internally, and how they work with their customers, how they engage with them in new and interesting ways, a lot of which is revolving around how to better leverage technology and all the digital tools that they have. Yeah.
There was an article that circulated a little bit ago in Slack, and I poked my head and read it, and it's from Harvard Business. And they actually said, I'm going to read it real quick, just a little snippet. They said, as workplaces mandate that employees work from home, universities shift fully to online teaching, restaurants transition to ordering online and delivery, automakers shut down their plants, we're seeing the most rapid organizational transformation in the history of the modern firm. So pretty big deal, it seems.
Yeah, I think that's very true. And I think I've seen some companies who are adapting to this really well, who are, either already well suited, well set up to be able to deal with this new environment they find themselves in. And I see a lot of other companies who have maybe they weren't set up to deal with this, but they've adapted really quickly. And still others yet that are really, really struggling to figure out how to operate in this environment they find themselves in, and really, really struggling to do anything about that, and pushing back hard with the whole concept of people working remotely and engaging with other people in different ways.
So let's talk a little bit about what is digital transformation. How would you explain this concept to a fellow business owner? What is digital transformation?
Yeah, so I think digital transformation, it's not just about like taking what you were doing on paper and moving it into digital tools. I think it's really more about, rethinking how you're engaging with your customers, how you're engaging with your team, your employees, and really sort of using the tools and technologies that we have available today to not just bring physical things into a digital world, but how to use those tools and take advantage of those tools to their fullest extent, to not do business as usual, but find ways to really change and rethink how business is being done.
Yeah. And it's not, it is all aspects of business. We talk about digital transformation as the overhaul of the process that your company uses, the overhaul of operations, the overhaul of relationships with your customers, and like you said, just how your business runs in general.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, it's important to not, like I said, not just say, hey, we used to do this on paper and now we've got a spreadsheet or a software application to do it, but to think, here's how we were operating. Here were the processes and procedures and way we interacted with customers. Given these new tools that we have available to us, how should we be operating? Let's not keep doing the same things we were doing when we had different tools. Let's do something different that these new tools enable us to do in new and innovative ways.
Yeah. So what are some examples, either industries or specific companies that you have seen moving more towards this idea of digital transformation?
Yeah, I think so. One of them just the other day, I was out grabbing lunch for my family, and we stopped at Chick-fil-A. We stopped at Chick-fil-A. So it's interesting, all the news talking about how how troubled of a time it is for restaurants, and it truly is. But Chick-fil-A was as busy as I have ever seen it. Right? There's not as many people out and about, but they were hopping. And I think that one of the interesting things when you look at what they have done, even before this whole crisis, they've really set themselves up really well to respond in this environment, because they have a really good suite of tools for their customers to be able to do online ordering and choose to either pick up inside the restaurant, get it inside the restaurant to eat there, pick it up curbside, or pick it up through the drive-through. And so they've really used these tools that they have available to them to put themselves in a really good position. And a lot of, there's a lot of restaurants out there that have stuff like that, but there's also a lot, especially some smaller local mom and pop type places who don't necessarily have as sophisticated of online ordering and pickup systems and all this kind of stuff. And I think you see them struggling or starting to have to figure out right now in the middle of this crisis how to do that well. And that's always been part of what Chick-fil-A does. And so it's a really smooth operation from that perspective.
Do you remember a few years ago, so rewind to 2016 when I joined Mutually Human in the Grand Rapids office, do you remember where I used to go to lunch all the time, like multiple times a week? By chance?
No, I don't. Panera. Yeah, you went to Panera.
Yes, I went to Panera. And the number one reason, really close to the number one reason I went to Panera, because as I said in the intro, I am obviously a taco fan. Even my phone case proves it here. But I went to Panera all the time because they were one of the few, at least at that time, where I could, from work, real quick, go online or on my app, order some food, drive there, and it would be ready, and I could just walk in and pick it up. It wasn't my love for the Greek salad that got me to Panera every day. It really was the convenience factor and what that online ordering brought to my life that made it simpler to get my lunch.
Right, absolutely. And I mean, I think that's the whole point of this sort of digital transformation discussion within businesses is not, like I said, how can I can order online now, therefore I can do the same thing I was doing, but now I can do it with digital tools. But how can you change that experience with the customers? How can you improve and rethink and provide new and interesting value to that customer in light of these new tools that you have available to you?
Yeah, a couple other that come to mind that is similar to restaurants is like grocery stores, being able to do curbside pickup and delivery. Yep. I think an interesting one that's been around for a long time now, but is like hailing a taxi. Now we can like order a ride online. In the marketing space, one of the ones I came across when I was researching digital transformation that I found just interesting was the idea of billboards to like social media advertising. So like instead of actually, just posting a billboard that random multiple people in a certain geographical area would see, being able now to like personalize and target things through social media. I think we're seeing a lot of that, like brick and mortar to e-commerce sites, things like that. What about from some actual examples of clients we've worked with that we've worked to like bring them into this space?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I think that, one of the recent clients that we worked with, we're really helping them bring new experiences to teachers from the perspective of helping provide them interesting content that they can use in their classroom and teach to their students. I think that historically a lot of this sort of professional development and teaching and curriculum for teachers has been provided in physical format, right? It's been, here's this book you get with the curriculum in it, or here's the instructions for how to teach this thing. And so what we aim to do with this client was really help them build an online tool to make it much easier and quicker to deliver this content for teachers, so that teachers could, find these programs that they have available to use in their classroom, learn about them, purchase them, get access to them right on their device, and use it as they're moving about the classroom and things like that. And so they're not, tied to these old ways of doing things. They've sort of opened up a new line of being able to interact with these teachers to provide them valuable content to students in the classroom.
Yeah. Another one in the education space that I also find really interesting is where students used to take tests with pen and paper.
Yep.
And then like that test would be like physically mailed somewhere, scanned in, scored. And then if you
Yeah.
remember this particular client, even I believe even like hand addressed envelopes to like send the results to parents. I mean, that transformation from paper, pencil, and that whole manual process to like a digital test
Yeah.
and scoring and delivery of results, I mean, was huge in terms of saving costs, making it faster,
Time.
like
Yeah.
just all kinds
So
of
much
things.
time. Yeah. I mean, this was, they were administrating a summer program for students. And like you said, the turnaround time from a student taking a test and filling out a
Yeah.
Scantron sheet at home and mailing it in, and then them scanning it in and grading it and then mailing it back to them. That was the turnaround time for students to get results from these things. And so, by being able to turn that process all into a digital experience for students to be able to snap a picture of that test and get real-time results, right away, was really transformative for, not only, like you said, their internal, operations and how much time and effort and energy it costs them to administer that, as well as the experience for customers was transformative too, because they got instant results. They could immediately see how they're doing, as opposed to, taking a test and a week later knowing how you did on it.
All right. The next, actually two benefits I'm going to combine into one because I think they're really related, that we've talked a lot about in the past is the benefit of digital transformation being reducing cost and increasing efficiency. So how have you seen digital transformation really help businesses do both of those things?
Yeah, so I think, one of the benefits of digital transformation, again, this is all about using tools to help you do things differently. But one of the benefits of that is, hey, I've moved from a largely manual and paper-based process to something online, or to something on the computer. And what that allows me and what that affords me to do is I can automate a lot of things, right? If I need to get this data from somewhere on a piece of paper and then do something else with it over here, or key it into this software and this software, if we start with that all being, natively digital information and data, we can start to automate the process of this information moving through different systems, being communicated to different people, being translated from, from the customer over to us and back. And so, it's really about being able to offer those efficiencies through automation. And obviously with efficiency comes, improved costs, being able to, hey, this used to take me, a whole day to sit here and take all this incoming documentation and key it in or scan it or whatever I need to do with it. And now it comes in as digital, and I effectively have to do nothing. Like maybe I have to spend, a few quick minutes doing a quick review or something like that of the actual data. But the actual process of doing a lot of those things sort of disappear.
Yeah, another one I can think of is two aspects of what they did. One was they had the recipes that they needed for the materials that they were building.
Mm-hmm.
And to be able to access those recipes and figure out what ingredients they had to either order or in stock and what values needed to go in. And that same client having the ability to, they would print out the work orders with the instructions of how to make the different products, and actually print out, staple, put them in this little packet and like bring it over to the machine that needed to,
right,
that was going to produce that material.
Yeah. And I think that's another great example of like, historically that's what they do. And that makes them in today's world, like there's a dependency on, obviously somebody has to be there to run this equipment.
Right.
I can't get away from that. Unless, you can get it to run so perfectly that it doesn't need an operator, but that's generally not true.
Yeah.
But, the person who is putting these work orders together and putting those work order packets together and putting them by the machines,
yep.
That's something that they're still seeking to continue to improve to say, hey, we don't even need someone to come in to build this stuff, because that can all flow digitally right through to those machines, to the screens at those machines, and nobody needs to go through the step of building those. And again, in today's environment, they can keep doing that without having to send somebody in.
All right, next benefit, accuracy. So we're not all perfect. I mean, some of us are perfect, but
I am, but yeah.
Humans, right, of course.
Right.
Humans in general are not always perfect, and there's going to be human error in any manual process. So let's talk a little bit about how digital transformation could potentially help a company increase their accuracy.
Yeah, I think looking back to the previous one about increased efficiency and automation, I think one of the biggest sources of potential inaccuracies in any business is just, like you said, human error, right? It's easy to be entering data and press a 6 when you meant to press the 7, and now something's wrong, right? Especially if you have to start entering data in multiple systems or keep multiple things in sync with each other. It all starts to just lead to other opportunities for inaccuracies to enter into those equations. And so automation, again, really provides an ability for accuracy to improve a ton, because you get rid of a lot of the surface area that exists for those inaccuracies to be introduced.
We've seen it across a ton of our clients. So maybe they use spreadsheets to manage their tracking of cases, or they use spreadsheets to manage their recipes, or spreadsheets to manage different types of content. And they have to be able to enter content into all those different spreadsheets that they have, versus like having that information stored in a central database that you enter at once and that it populates throughout different views and such.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think spreadsheets are a great example of where this can sort of come to be a pain point pretty quickly. It's a really quick and easy way to start, right? A lot of people, you can do a lot of stuff with spreadsheets, and a lot of people start there as sort of their first reach. You absolutely should. Yeah. It's a good tool. But I think where we often see is companies start with this, using this spreadsheet, and they keep using it and keep using it and keep building. And it starts to really outgrow what the spreadsheet was meant to do. And now they've got, a library of hundreds or thousands of spreadsheets that are all, have duplicate sources of data and have, partial data across many things, right? This case tracking thing that for the law firm that you talked about is all about, I've got cases, we've got hundreds or thousands of cases going on across many clients, and each case is in its own spreadsheet. And now you want to start to ask the question of like, how do I update this one client with the status of all their things?
Yeah.
Well, now I've got to go look in hundreds of spreadsheets to figure out which ones is this client in, and what's the status of their thing. And so collate all that and send it out. And so, you talk about, improving accuracy, like how easy is it going to be to miss one of those spreadsheets in one of those cases that this person's going to be a part of, that this client was a part of, and not be able to update them on that one.
Yeah. I think spreadsheets are a really interesting example when it comes to digital transformation, because some companies might say, yeah, we are all digital. We use spreadsheets and they're saved on our server and anyone can access that at any time. And I think that there could be a misunderstanding of digital transformation, and being able to operate in that way doesn't mean, hey, all my stuff is on a server necessarily. It's more than that, right?
Right. Yeah. I think I read one time, it's not just about digitization. It's about digital transformation. It's about how can the digitization of
Can you say that
doing,
3 times fast?
No, I can't. I could barely say it the 2 times I already said it. But how can you leverage the digitization of what you're working with to transform how you're working?
Next up is analytics. So I think that, the world we love our data now, right? Like everything is feeding us tons of data. And digitalization gives companies access to so much of that data. So can you talk a little bit about how that's possible and why is it important?
Yeah, no, I think it's interesting to see, as you start to digitize all this stuff, you start to have access to a lot more data, at least a lot easier access to a lot of data that maybe you didn't have before, right? Let's circle back to the restaurant example earlier, right? They've got enormous amounts of data about, in their POS systems about what people are ordering, when they're ordering it, and so on and so forth. And so, there's a lot of restaurants who are using those tools to be able to, smartly and proactively start cooking the right things, right? And so there's this trade-off between, knowing that, hey, typically on Wednesdays at 3 p.m., here's what types of things get ordered. Here's how much of it. And so we can start to know smartly, not just, in really broad, big chunks of like, yeah, beef tacos are the most popular, so let's make a bunch of beef tacos. But we can start to know down to Wednesday afternoon, beef tacos are really popular. And so you can start to, you just have so much more data that you can start to use to glean interesting and useful insights into your business to figure out, how can I improve? How can I optimize? How can I, like we talked about, reduce costs, cut waste, or improve the speed or experience to customers?
Yeah, I think ultimately the data needs to help business owners and leaders of departments make really informed decisions.
Yep.
One of the things I'll say here is that just having the data itself isn't always enough. So again, if I can think of an example where the company actually had all the data they needed, but it was in a giant table. Yep. And so being able to look at that giant table wasn't necessarily enough to be able to glean the insights that they needed.
Right.
And so one of the things that's important in this whole transformation is not only getting the back end and the technology set up, but it is also focusing on some of the user interface. Obviously, yep. I'm partial, being the UX designer at Mutual Human, but being able to have an interface that allows you to pull meaningful reports, see dashboards that are helping you see both real time or over time information, again, to help you make those really informed business decisions.
We actually created screens to replicate or to mimic in a lot of ways the actual physical infrastructure that they had in their warehouse, so that they could not just see this data in a bunch of rows and columns, but they could see it in a manifestation that looks like what they actually deal with when they walk around on the floor. And that helped them to get a lot more insights from that data a lot quicker, to be able to make really important real-time decisions on the spot.
How have you personally found value in being able to attract talent from not just Grand Rapids or Columbus, where we have physical offices, but beyond?
Yeah, I think that this digital transformation opens the doors for being able to more easily work with people no matter where they are, right? And so, if you're limited, especially depending on the market you're in, right? You might be in a big successful market, but that means that people are maybe more in demand and more expensive. You may be in a really small market, and so your choice is just really limited, right? And by opening up your pool of talent to to anywhere in the country, or maybe even anywhere in the world, you start to have a lot of benefits from being able to find the best person to do this job, not just the best person in your city to do the job. You start to be able to find ways to compete with, especially if you're in running an organization in San Francisco, like you've got a really, really expensive talent pool there. Whereas, someone in somewhere else in the country, in the Midwest, is a much more affordable person. So, that can be a real competitive advantage for organizations, of being able to leverage talent across the board, both to find talent that's maybe not as expensive if they're in really high demand areas, or find even better talent that's maybe not available in their area, or is too competitive to get access to. So I think that's one element of the talent part of what being a truly digital organization allows you to do. But I think the other one is just as digital transformation is about changing the way you as an organization interact with your customers, I think it's also about changing the way you as an organization interact with your team. And so it's not your team isn't just about being in the office and having that staff meeting around that conference room table, but it's how can we provide value and interact with our team in a digital way when we are all spread apart, we are all remote, and that can be a positive thing. Not a lot of businesses are scared of it and think it's really negative, but it can be a really positive thing as well.
Yeah, digital transformation is definitely a culture shift for some people, and so part of that is learning and embracing some of those things that will be new, and not being afraid to fail, and not being afraid to continue to evaluate and change what you're doing. So for me personally, having 3 boys that are very active in a lot of activities, and being a working parent, a company that offers me that flexibility is by far going to be a priority compared to a company that doesn't.
People are really crave autonomy and flexibility in the jobs that they do, and like you said, like, you know, your job, obviously being a designer with us, is something that we have built to be able to be something that's flexible, that right now, while we're all working from home, you can pretty much continue operating as normal, right? On a random day, if you've got a kid sick and you need to be home, you can continue operating as normal. And I bet that not all organizations that have positions very similar to what you do have that flexibility, right?
Right.
They very much want and need and believe that person needs to be there, and may even be set up in a way where it actually would be really hard for you to work from somewhere else.
Right.
Not just because they don't want you to, but because they don't have the tools and stuff set up for you to be able to do that. And so, you know, that flexibility is, you know, important to, like you said, be able to attract people who value that. That's going to be an advantage as from a business's perspective, to be able to attract people who do value that, who can say, hey, I've got to be home today to take care of my sick kid, but I don't have to go take a day off. I can still work. Or
Right.
my daughter has a school program this afternoon, and I want to go over there for a few hours, participate in that, and I can work a couple hours this evening to make up for it. And because I can work wherever, whenever, that's really easy to do.
Yeah. Yesterday was a good example of that for me. I worked in the morning, and then the weather turned amazing, and the kids were poking their head into that window over there, like begging me to come outside. And I said, okay, yeah, I can take a couple hours and go outside, get muddy, and play soccer for a little bit, and come back here later and finish up what I needed to get done. How can you convince a company that they would be able to deliver better customer service if they were a more digitally focused company?
All right. So, you know, that you look at the hospitality industry, and I think one of the interesting things that you see there, it's a little thing, but one interesting thing is, you know, you've been able to a long time, like, book hotel rooms online, right? Which is, I think, an improved experience, right? You don't have to call, you don't have to just like pop in and like go through the whole process at the front desk. You can get that all set up ahead of time, from the comfort of your phone, car, home, wherever you are. But one of the improvements that I think is more recent is the ability to just check in on your phone, right? Like, I don't even have to go wait in line at the hotel. I can just check into my phone, and I don't even have to go wait in line to get a key. I can just use my phone as my room key. And so I think that's a great example of, you know, improved customer service, thinking about how to take this digital thing and improve the customer service with it.
All right, last up on our list, I'm sure there are many more benefits, but the last one we wanted to talk about today is being able to remain competitive. So in what ways do you feel like digital transformation is really going to help you stay competitive in the marketplace?
Yeah. So, I mean, you use today as a great example, right? Like, what organizations that are, you know, not really native digital people are really struggling to operate right now, right? You know, set aside again, those businesses that physically can't operate without being at their factory or something like that. But, you know, there's restaurants out there thriving right now, and there are restaurants out there struggling right now. And it's not only because of digital transformation that they've done, but you can definitely see places where that is an example of they were set up really well to thrive in this really weird world we find ourselves in right now, and others don't, and they're really struggling, and they're just struggling to try to figure out like how to sort of continue to operate a little bit, sort of, while others are like, okay, cool, we're still full steam ahead in this environment. And so I think, you know, today opens a really interesting perspective on what it means to be competitive in that way. But, you know, even in a normal economy without a global pandemic going on, you know, I think that if you think about, again, go back to this hotel example that we just talked about, right? Like, those customer experiences that you're able to provide, or the airlines, like, are you as a customer going to make different choices about which hotel I'm going to go on, which airline I'm going to fly, based on those kinds of experiences? And you know, absolutely, that's true. That those experiences are going to be a big deal for how to do that. And, you know, you even look at something like Amazon, right? Like, how much of that stuff that you buy on Amazon every day did you used to go to a store and buy, right?
Right.
And now it's way more convenient. to just buy it online. It's still retail. It's still buying that stuff. There's even parts of it that are less convenient, right? Like it's going to take me 2 days to get in. I can't try it on first and yada, yada, yada.
Right.
But you still do it because there's other benefits. And, I think that's a really interesting place where, why was it someone not in retail who built that, right? Why was it not these people who were in retail who saw the incoming internet and all this stuff going on and took advantage of doing that? It's because they're looking at how are we operating? What are these old ways we're doing it? And didn't really have their eyes open maybe till a lot later to start to see like, how can I join this revolution of the internet and digital tools to be able to continue to offer my service in an entirely different way that's more competitive and a better experience for users and really puts me ahead in the marketplace.
Yeah, I think I can't talk a ton about this client, but our law firm client also has ways that they're using their software that we built from their custom software to be able to extrapolate data in a way that allows their clients to get better claims on different things.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's something that once they put that in place, that they have a strong competitive advantage against other companies that don't have that software
Right.
built in that way.
Yep.
Yes. So I'm a business owner. You sold me. I feel like I'm ready for digital transformation at my company. What's next? What do I do?
Yeah, I think the first part is starting to just think about, what are we doing? What have we been doing for a long time? What have we been, operating in this sort of like this old way, and really sort of step back and use this as an opportunity to say, if we didn't have barriers with technologies or being in person or all those types of things, like how could we do something differently, right? If I could imagine anything that I could possibly do, how would I do it differently? And I think, really stepping back and rethinking that, especially that experience with customers, to say like, what are these customers' pain points, and how can I deliver on them different, even if it flies in the face of what I'm doing today, or it isn't something I'm capable of, or isn't a service that I offer. How can I do that? And really start to think about that. And I think that, getting some insights, sometimes it can be hard to even think about like, what can technology enable me to do, right? Especially if that's not something that you're super, super skilled with or know a lot about. And so oftentimes it's really helpful to have someone to have that conversation with, to guide you through the process, to see what you're doing as a business and start to find opportunities where, hey, here's a thing that you're doing that you're spending a lot of time, energy, effort on that we could automate, or here's a space in the market that you could be fulfilling, but you're not really well set up for it. And so sometimes having that guide and having those conversations can be a really useful thing to help you in starting to think about that.
All right. Well, I think that pretty much wraps up our conversation about digital transformation. We talked a little bit about what it is, some examples, what the benefits are, and how to go about implementing it. So we really appreciate everyone for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks everyone for joining today. And if you think your organization is in need of a digital transformation, keep listening to our future shows as we continue to dive into other topics that can help you navigate you along that journey. And if, like I said earlier, you need a guide to help you sort of navigate that yourself, to help you understand what's possible and guide you in that journey, hit us up. You can find us online at mutuallyhuman.com, or email me directly, mark@mutuallyhuman, MARK. Anytime.
Yep. And Mark and I love to have conversations about different companies, what your domain is, what the challenges you are facing. So if you are interested, we also offer a free consultation. If you go to our website in the upper right-hand corner, you can sign up for a free consultation, and we can talk a little bit more about your business and what challenges you face and what opportunities might exist for you in the world of custom software and digital transformation.